In our prior session, we incorporated the ideas of uncertainty and autocatalysis of consciousness into our discussion on the creative cycle. We described the cycle's repetition and how uncertainty increased to the point where it overwhelmed the motivation to power the next cycle. The universe faced a breach in its becoming, a crossroads in its evolution, the doubt before an awakening. This is Session 4, Autonomy and Unity, in a course titled Evolution of Consciousness, and that is central to a larger view, evolution of consciousness theory. In this session, we build on the concept of the creative cycle to develop the ideas of the creative threshold and creative process, and to formally define time and space. This carries our discussion to the turn that thrusts creation beyond the evolutionary period of emergence. We call this demarcation in the universe's becoming the threshold of autonomy and unity. In the prior session, we left off at the point where uncertainty, in the creative cycle, had grown to occupy the universe's entire consciousness of emptiness. As uncertainty overwhelmed, however, it made imminent its own collapse and the emergence of a new evolutionary direction. Recall that each creative cycle gave rise to a growth in the universe's consciousness, and that this consciousness could be experienced as motivation or uncertainty. Looked at in another way, as uncertainty occupied a larger portion of the universe's consciousness of emptiness, it locked up, or held in potential, the motivational aspect of a vastly amplified experience of emptiness. At the cycle where uncertainty overwhelmed, the obsolescence of the universe's present course of advance was no longer in doubt. With this certainty, uncertainty collapsed to release the entirety of the universe's consciousness of emptiness, to be felt as the motivation to create fulfillment. This motivation not only drove the universe to perceive itself as the object of its need, but to do so in a new way. This motivation lifted the universe beyond its past course of evolutionary advance, and thrust it onto a new course of evolutionary advance. The universe crossed an evolutionary threshold. Which brings us to the nature of the universe's new course of evolutionary advance. For the reason that at such an early stage in evolution, there was no other avenue to pursue, the universe could progress in only one evolutionary direction. There was only one road to follow. The universe not only grasped itself as an entity of consciousness within itself, as it had done before, the universe grasped itself as grasping itself. The universe not only perceived itself as the object of its need to create fulfillment, it perceived itself as perceiving itself. An external construct manifested. But we can no longer picture this external construct as uniform energy that existed as all space. Due to the universe's enwrapping of perception, due to the universe not only perceiving itself as an entity of consciousness within itself, but to it perceiving itself as this entity, we can visualize the external as two areas of uniform energy that together existed as all space. The universe's nesting of a secondary act of perception within its overall act of perception manifested as a doubling of space to form two identical regions of energy. Cycle after cycle, the process repeated. During the universe's second creative cycle, at its new evolutionary level, it enwrapped the more complex degree of perception it had become to grasp itself as for entities of consciousness within itself. During its third cycle, it enwrapped this more complex degree of perception to grasp itself as 8 entities of consciousness within itself. Just as from an internal standpoint, each cycle resulted in a doubling of entities of consciousness, from an external standpoint, each cycle resulted in a doubling of regions of uniform energy. Cycle after cycle, consciousness, and the external expression of the movement of that consciousness, multiplied. The external became more complex. Time-space differentiated. As we would expect, however, there was more to the differentiation of time-space than the duplication of regions of uniform energy. Because each entity of consciousness was a perceptual reproduction of the first, each would be identical. Each would embody the same level of awareness. Because each entity had the same level of awareness, and because the number of entities doubled with each cycle, the decrease in motivation, that occurred with an increase in uncertainty, had to reveal itself other than by a change in these factors. The simplicity of the early universe leads us to conclude that this development could take only one form. Increasing uncertainty and decreasing strength of perception revealed itself as a weakening in the relationship between each doubling of entities and overall consciousness. As uncertainty increased, the universe less tightly embraced each doubling of entities. The universe not only consisted of entities of consciousness, but of entities in a perceptual relationship to overall consciousness. This internal organization would have an external manifestation, and it is here that we can glimpse its form. If we consider each doubling of regions to be a group, external organization would manifest as a scattering of regions of uniform energy within each group, wrapped within a scattering of the groups themselves. Old groups and regions would be more tightly aligned than new groups and regions. The regions of uniform energy, however, did not occupy a larger space, like marbles in a jar. They represented time-space itself. The scattering of groups and regions was not a fabric of entities woven in space, it was a fabric of time-space. To recap the universe's new level of evolutionary advance, with each repetition of the creative cycle, the universe enwrapped its previous degree of perception. Internally, the universe existed as an entity of consciousness, whose growth took place by a doubling of the number of entities of lesser consciousness wrapped within. Externally, the universe existed as a fabric of time-space, whose growth took place by a doubling of the number of regions of uniform energy organized within the whole. But as at the universe's previous evolutionary level, the growth of uncertainty would assure that this internal and external advancement was not without its limit. Before we bring this scenario to its conclusion, however, it would be useful to backtrack somewhat and gather our thoughts. Grounded in the notion of evolutionary context, we are drawn to a particular vision of the early universe and its evolution. Whereas science has traditionally seen the universe as an evolution of matter that, with the advent of life, achieved the complexity to manifest in consciousness, we see the universe as an evolution of consciousness that, at every level of its becoming, manifested in an evolution of matter. Our evolution of consciousness vision of creation begins with the universe in a state of emptiness and progresses by way of the creative cycle. The repetition of the creative cycle climaxes in the build-up and collapse of uncertainty, which releases the motivation to drive consciousness to a new level of evolutionary advance across the creative threshold. Thus far, we have looked at two evolutionary levels: simple expansion of consciousness, followed by simple multiplication of consciousness. Taken as a whole, we see evolution as the process whereby the universe overcomes uncertainty to recreate itself in states of successively greater awareness. The fundamental force behind this evolution is emptiness, or the need to create fulfillment. The fundamental aim is the creation of a more conscious, highly evolved experience of fulfillment. Consciousness is the substance of creation. Matter and energy revealed through its effect on matter mark the transformation of consciousness. To define time-space as expressed during the universe's period of emergence, one click of time and one rebirth of space occur with each act of perception, or more generally, with each creative cycle. Flow of time and transformation of space occur with subsequent acts of perception, or with subsequent creative cycles. At this point, it is also appropriate to give the mechanism of the creative cycle and creative threshold a name. For reasons that are apparent, we call it the creative process. With this review, we return to the creative process and complete the scenario associated with the universe's second evolutionary level, the simple multiplication of consciousness. Cycle after cycle, emptiness, perception, and fulfillment increased. Entities of consciousness doubled and doubled again. Time clicked and space expanded and differentiated. Then the universe reached the point where it exhausted its potential to create fulfillment through simple enwrapping of perception. Uncertainty overwhelmed and collapsed. The universe turned in on itself and embraced itself as what it had become. From the standpoint of the external, the universe existed as an entity made up of regions of uniform energy, organized to form a fabric of time-space. From the standpoint of the internal, the universe existed as an entity of consciousness, poised for the development of structure, an entity made up of autonomous entities of consciousness, embraced within the consciousness of the whole. The universe crossed the threshold of autonomy and unity. Must not the universe's initial expansion of consciousness be followed by the multiplication of the entity of consciousness that resulted? Could the universe follow any other evolutionary path? Must not any definition of time and space incorporate the universe's cyclic nature? With our introduction to the threshold of autonomy and unity, we complete session 4 in our course titled Evolution of Consciousness. We have established the background to explore the universe's second major period in evolution, the Age of Structure. This period encompasses the evolution of the cosmos, and when we embrace the within alongside the without, we see the evolution of the cosmos in a way we have not seen it before. Our course, titled Evolution of Consciousness, continues in Session 5, Relationships.